All right, you ready for this? Partner 5000. We're going to try our methanol today. Extensive work has been done, quite extensive, and we're going to try to get this built up into a race, 3 cubic inch race style build. Now, since the last video, we had an air leak at the intake boot, and I got that fixed. There was an alignment issue with all my parts. It just had that intake boot just slightly out of alignment, just enough to where she wouldn't seal up. So we took care of that. We also ruined the original set of cases for this salt with alcohol. It destroyed the aluminum in the fuel tank, right at the seam where the gasket goes. So even though I had emptied the tank and purged it and everything, there was still enough methanol that soaked in by that gasket that it just destroyed it. So this is a whole other set of cases. This is a different crankshaft, connecting rod, bearings, all that stuff. Hopefully it's good. We don't know. We're gonna find out today. But I did take a step. If you look in there at that fuel tank, you see the red stuff. That is what they call red coat. You pour it in, swish it around, you pour it out, and you let it dry. I put 2 coats in there, and she's been drying for almost a week now, so we should be good and cured. That's just an extra step I took to help prevent from having that issue again. What else here? Now, this case is not a Partner 5000 case. I did discover it's actually a Partner 500 case, which they are extremely similar. So it is a Partner 500 case, Partner 500 crankshaft, connecting rod, all that stuff. The whole bottom end is from a Partner 500. I did not split the case to go through the bearings and stuff. I'm just taking my chances that the bearings are good, but I have replaced both crankshaft seals. That clutch cover is not the one you've been seeing on this saw. This is a Partner 500 clutch cover, and I completely gutted it. All the chain brake components are gone. We don't want that flag getting in our way during the races or anything like that. In fact, during a race, it won't even have the air filter on it. I'll probably just remove it because I don't want to take the chance of having my hand clip that air filter, So we would remove that to make our 3 cuts at a race. It's only on there for testing and purposes and stuff like that. What else have I done? A lot, really. I mean, she is fully ported. She's not ported the same as what I would port a gas saw, though. She is ported differently. I'm running a much bigger squish number. She's sitting at like 35 thou on the squish. I usually run a tighter. I usually run gasoline at about 25 to 28 thousandths on my squish numbers, where this I'm running it at around 35 thousandths. I'm doing that because of the methanol, and I feel like, she takes a lot more volume of fuel to run on methanol, so I figured I probably should put that squish number a little bigger for the methanol as well. Now, I would like to have this salt on nitromethane eventually. I don't know if we're going to be able to get there. The reason is because nitromethane, I have been told, does not like compression. It doesn't like a lot of compression, I should say. I had a gentleman tell me at one time that not to exceed 180 pounds of compression with nitromethane. This saw is sitting closer to 200, 205, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there. So we're going to try it with methanol first. And methanol, straight methanol, does like compression. It likes compression more so than gasoline, from what I've been told. So we're going to hopefully utilize the little bit higher compression number and all that stuff of the methanol and try to get this thing to produce a lot of power. That's basically our goal here. No promises that we don't at least try the nitromethane here in the future. Today is just trying to get it to take off on the methanol. Now, this carburetor has been modified enough that it should run on nitromethane, which might cause me trouble trying to run it on methanol. So like gas, you need to flow a certain volume of fuel. When you go to methanol, you need to increase that volume of fuel. And when you go to nitromethane, you need to increase it even more. Well, this carburetor might be flowing too much fuel. It depends if I have enough adjustments in the carburetor to lean it out enough to get the methanol to take off good. You know what I mean? She might be trying to push too much fuel though. We're gonna find out here. Heck, she might even go lean on me. You never know. Now this bar is not meant for this saw. I had to do some modifications to get it on there. That is a square ground chain, but I'm not 100% confident it's going to cut well. I have not ground enough square chain to be confident that that profile is going to work good on 325 chain. On round chain, when I grind round chain, I find that I prefer a different set of angles on 325 than what I do on 3/8 chain. And the profile on this chain is the same as what I'm running on 3/8, so I may not like it on 325 just from my experience of playing with round chain. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now I ran not this exact bar, but another one exactly like it at the races on this saw last year, and it turned into a disaster. So these bars are 58 gauge. They're actually stamped for 58 gauge 3/8 chain, and I'm running a 50 gauge 325 chain, and that bit me in the butt last year at the races. So like I raced it on gas, but what happened is I had a little bit of, the chain was just a little bit on the loose side, and I made my down cut, but on my up cut, when this part of the chain hit the wood, I was kind of shifting the saw sideways at the same time, and it rolled the chain over to the side and really screwed up my upcut trying to get up into the wood. I actually had to stop to reset and start my cut again. But even that was bad, because when I rolled it, I actually pushed it clean off the bar and off to the side. So whenever I went to make my next upcut, I was just trying to cut right off the bar. The chain was clean down in. But by some miracle, I pulled it out of the wood, gave that throttle a couple of blips, and some miracle, she popped back on by herself. So she was hanging on by a thread, you know what I mean? It was right there, teetering at that point that it would pop off the saw, you know what I mean? So what I did here is I used a bar rail closer, and I took that 58 gauge bar and squeezed her down to where a 50 gauge chain, well, you can see here, my side wiggle, you see it? My side wiggle's pretty nice here now. So I squeezed her down to where she's set up pretty nice for a 50 gauge chain. So we should be good for the future here. So even though it is stamped for 58 gauge chain, 58 gauge chain won't fit it anymore. It's set up now for 50 gauge. And I think we should be good. I had to do a modification to get it to oil. I had to do a modification to get the chain tensioner to work, But that's the bar I wanted to run, and we got it on there. So I've been rambling on here for a while, telling you all about this saw. And I'm kind of stalling. I need to fuel it up and see what happens. You know what I mean? I've been playing with this thing for quite some time. The last couple of weeks was trying to figure out the air leak and swapping out the cases and all that stuff. And well, today is test day. So I need to stop stalling and just get it done and over with. We're going to find out if we got more problems to fix or if we can move forward. The only other thing to add is the other set of cases, the original set of cases, I had an ignition advance set up on it. This one is set to factory. So there is no advanced timing on this one. I still have that key that I modified. I have it sitting on the shelf in there, so if we think it needs it, we can just throw that key in. But for now, we're not going to advance the timing on it. Now I do have this tree limb here in my way, but we'll work around it. She snapped out of that tree up there, came down, snapped the top out of this little guy here, and landed here. So Might have to make a cut or two on this to get this guy out of our way. But let's go ahead and stop stalling. Make an attempt to at least fire it. Normally, I try to fire it on the bench before I even think about taking the saw out to the wood. But because was doing the bar and chain modifications while I was waiting on the tank to cure, she's already set up with the bar and chain on it. So I decided to go ahead out here, and if she works, we're gonna go for wood. If it doesn't work, then we won't cut wood, you know? So let's see how far we get. We may get nothing. We might be cutting wood. You never know what's gonna happen until you try, so that's what we're doing here. Let's see what happens. Now, I hope this works, because I'm kind of tired of messing with it. You know what I mean? I really hope it works. So this is methanol. Oil is mixed at 20:1. We're using Super Technoplate. I still have a functioning choke on this. So no promises it stays like that, but I still have a functioning choke. We'll see if she works without any sort of a prime. I think I might have to prime it. Doesn't feel like the fuel's moving through. Oh, I got the high jet to shut down pretty good. All right, let's try this again. So what we're seeing there is, I think we're trying to flow too much fuel. If you heard of reversion before, and how you can end up with exhaust gases trying to push back down through the transfers, I think that's what we're seeing here. Because the fatter I go, the worse it gets. I think we're getting just a lot of reversion, and I can't get the carb to lean out enough to clean it up. That's leaned out as far as I can get it. So either we go for nitromethane, see what happens, or we swap out carbs. What do you think? Kind of curious to see how she runs on methanol before we go to nitromethane. So I think we're going to swap out carbs. I have another carb. It was a 660 carb on this originally that I modified for methanol, and I think we're going to go ahead back to that carb. So probably going to be tomorrow for me, but I'm going to tack it onto this video. So let's do a carb swap. I think we're pushing too much fuel right now, so let's see what happens. You know, it's amazing how well a camera helps out. It is literally like almost dark. It'll be dark in a few minutes. It's funny how well a camera can make up for it. But we're just going to try to make one or two cuts here. Nothing, we're not going to get all into it right now. I had to go back to the 660 carburetor. That Tillotson was trying to flow way too much fuel, basically flooding the saw out as soon as I touched the trigger. It's probably going to need to be saved for something quite larger than a 50cc saw that's running nitromethane. So we'll hang on to it, but we're back to the 660 carb. The bench tune tells me we're lean, but I still want to put it in the wood for one or two cuts. This is as much fuel as I can get out of it, and she's starting to leak a little bit around the jets because I haven't turned out so far. So let's just see what she does here real quick. Just 1 or 2 cuts. All right, we're getting there. She's back to a running solid, you know what I mean? At least that far. She's not 100% yet though. I gotta do some carb work here. I broke the throttle linkage. I just kind of rigged up a piece of throttle linkage and it's about to fall off. It's all so sloppy, you know what I mean? And she's running lean. That's actually a little bit on the lean side. I'm gonna keep working on the carb, and it's not like you can just go in there and drill it out real big, and you know, you gotta find a spot that you can still have some tunability. You know what I mean? So it's like you gotta play with it a little bit at a time until you find that spot that everything works and you got some tunability to it, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's a little lean there, and it's actually pretty close though, because it didn't like lean out in the cut or do any of that stuff. So, you know what I mean? It didn't try to run away, I should say. If you get a bit on the extreme lean side, they'll start trying to run away from you, which sometimes you get that from an air leak on alcohol too. But yeah, she's getting close though. I can tell she's coming together. A little bit more work to do, and we might eventually try to get her to pull some more RPM. She's not pulling quite enough RPM for my taste, so we'll probably make some adjustments in the future about getting her to spin up to even more RPM, and that's probably when we'll go ahead and throw the nitromethane in it, because it's going to end up at like a stupid high roof, you know what I mean? That's just one of those things when you try to get stupid with your RPM. Your roof, I mean, eventually you have no choice but to raise the roof. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Stuff we're going to do in the future, but for now, we're just going to work at getting it running a bit cleaner than this on the alcohol. Chain is doing all right, I think. I wasn't really thinking about it in the cut, but nothing stood out. Like, you know what I mean? Like this chain sucks or anything like that. Had a couple of sparks, but I think that's just because of the fresh work that I've just done to the bar, coming out of the rails in the bar, you know what I mean? Nothing to get concerned about. It'll kind of work itself out in time. But there you go. First couple of cuts after all the work and everything, and now I gotta dump that fuel, put gas in it, and purge it, and hang it up for the night. The boys are beating on something up there. So, well, I think I'm going to hang it up for tonight. Yeah, I got work tomorrow, and it's almost dark. So if it's almost dark, I bet you it's probably 8:30 at night or something. I need to start thinking about getting, ready for bed and everything. So we'll be playing with this all more in the future, but at least we got her back up and running. Now I got to purge it, and yeah. Hopefully that red coat holds up. So, you know what I mean? We'll see how she does, though. She's getting there. Later.